Afternoon, everybody. This is Matt Webster again today with another video in my Christian Journey series. Today's character is another character on my list, and it's a character from a movie that I think most people are going to know. There's actually going to be a second one that goes along with this one too, because these two characters are a lot alike. Funny enough that Disney owns both of these properties now, but both of these characters are way more alike than I initially had realized, and it was kind of funny. That these two characters can coincide. So, the first character that I want to talk about is from Star Wars. Most people who are familiar with the franchise probably don't need to mention it, and being that it's from the original trilogy, it makes it even better. So, the character is Han Solo. And some people are probably thinking, yeah, of course you'd want to be Han Solo. And, yeah, there's a little bit of pride in that, I can admit that. Well, growing up, I always thought Han Solo was the cool guy, the awesome dude. He always had like the answers when no one else wanted them. And for me personally, part of what this character represents was there was a lack of faith at a certain point in time. And it wasn't until the right people started stepping into his life that he really understood faith. And I think in a way, the Force in that show and the movies, the Star Wars franchise, is a lot like faith, because it's this thing that you don't understand and you can't see, but you know exists, kind of like God. We don't always see him and we don't always know that he's there, but you know that he's there from within here. And Han struggled with that for a long time because Luke and Leia both could feel the Force, but after a long time of being around them, he started to kind of like slowly, that shell, that rough exterior kind of started to break off. It was kind of like a nice little moment to see things, and it's just kind of cool knowing that this is a character that to talk about with God, because it's really interesting when you look at a character like Han Solo, and like I feel like the fact that God allowed this character, particularly in my like want of characters and stuff, even for a message, this is a neat little thing, because Han Solo is that daring, dashing ladies' man. And ironically enough, he does embody chivalry quite well. It's really interesting to see just how this character, especially in my own life, has played out. Different people that have come and gone have always viewed me as like the prideful, arrogant kind, which is true. I have my issues, and there were things I needed to work on. And much like Han Solo, it took people softening that harder exterior that I had, that like kind of like a false identity, so to speak. Like really deep down, Han Solo is this like loving, caring guy, and it's because he grew up wanting to be a pilot, and he wanted to be out in space. He wanted to be out doing things, which is another message from God with this one, is that it was kind of more of a message directly to me, because something I'd prayed for was wings. And Han Solo is a pilot. His wings are out in the stars. And I've always felt like I had a real affinity with the stars and stuff through God, because it's like I look up at the night sky sometimes and I feel like I should be out there in the galaxy somewhere, off doing some crazy adventure. Maybe it's more of a want than anything, but being kind of like a flyboy out in space is just something that I feel like is always associated well with. Now, getting into the character that's like Han Solo, this was one that my own mother had said one day. This was one of Marvel's really interesting franchises that had come about. Initially, I had never heard of it. I went and saw the movie the first time by myself, and immediately I saw this character, and then I went, oof. Yeah, I know who that is. And it's funny because people say you suffer from main character syndrome kind of things, and this character actually does that in its own right in the movie. To get to the movie, though, the movie was Guardians of the Galaxy, and in particular, the character is Starlord. Now, anyone who knows my backstory and knows my life and where things were, I felt like I didn't really have either of my parents, and my stepdad was someone who taught me a lot of bad things, kind of like Jan do. kind of like Starlord and his relationship. Having said that, my biological father actually did try to kill my mother, kind of like what happened with Ego and Starlord's mom. And then kind of growing up without ever really knowing like my biological dad, to kind of find out that he wasn't a very good man like everyone had told me. Yeah, something that kind of hit hard. But going into like the Starlord aspect of it, I was out there always trying to fill the void with meaningless relationships, sexual encounters, things like that. And along the way, I kind of started realizing like I lost the care for other people and started caring more about me than anyone else. And as much as I wanted to believe I was out there doing good for everyone else, it was really more about who was number one in a lot of ways. Having said that, it was something I learned, kind of like how Star-Lord learns, is that sometimes found family can be more important than actual family in some regards, because the Guardians become his family. And it's kind of cool because a lot of these characters in the movie are represented by some of my closest friends. Kind of give an example of Michael and Carlo. You're watching this. Carlo, you are 100% Groot. Sometimes we don't know what you're saying. We just know you're saying it, and like we go along with it because you're funny to be around. You're charismatic and charming. Michael, you're Rocket Raccoon. You always gotta like, want to prove everything, and you're like me. You're a bit of an egomaniac. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. It's just a matter of being able to control our egos. My brother is Drax. Things go over his head all the time, and it's funny to watch because Drax is one of the most charismatic, loving people in the whole show. And to see how he really views things, like even one of his quotes is really good, which is, if you're ugly and someone loves you, you know that they love you for you. Or beautiful people never know if people truly love them. And that's honestly a really good quote. Going back to the Star-Lord thing, one of the things that was really highlighted recently for me was actually a quote, and it comes from the movie Footloose. Was what I was told by God to say to people, and I was told to tell this to my church. Now, whether or not they receive the message or not is entirely different. I kind of suspect I know what it's about, especially considering it was accompanied by like, an image of Star-Lord and Gamora's conversation, where Star-Lord is telling Gamora that Footloose is a movie about this hero who comes into town, played by Kevin Bacon, who gets a whole bunch of old people to pull the sticks out of their butt. And I think the problem between the young generation being the old and the new is that the relationship, the reason for the breakdown, is that yes, we do have to learn the ways of the elderly, but the old also need to consider that they're not speaking in the way that's going to reach young people. And some people think that it's just a matter of speaking, and that's not always the case. Sometimes you do have to really think about what you're saying and how you approach it. One of the reasons why Star-Lord's so important to me is music's a big deal to Star-Lord, and music is something that I find fondness of. It's something that I use to calm myself. I do it for my workouts, whatnot. But Star-Lord being the way he was as a person, and like the people that are around him, was what really helped change him, much like Han Solo. And both of these guys are pilots out in space, which I think is ironic. But both of them had that bad boy, playerish, whatever attitude you want to call it. The thing about it that's interesting, though, is that both of them deep down are people that were just longing for a home. And for me, that's been a big thing. As like I could tell you so many songs and things. One of the people that writes the most songs that seem to come back in my life to mean something is Blake Shelton. Now, there's one song in particular that comes to mind when I think of like what I just said, and that's the song Home. If you've never listened to it, I recommend it. That song by Blake Shelton is absolutely amazing. Actually gave me a lot of perspective in my own life. So many songs, though. Going back to Han Solo, something else, too, that God has really, really highlighted, and I love this quote, There's so many quotes that Han Solo has that are really good, and I'll highlight another one in a moment, but this one in particular I think hits where a lot of Christians, I don't think, really understand this. Nothing is impossible for God. If you really, really desire something and you want to see something, pray about it and understand what you're praying for. You also have to search yourself sometimes and see in ways you can help improve yourself. Because God will give you the things you want and the desires of your heart, especially if they're in alignment with what His will is. So to highlight the quote that Han Solo has is, "Never tell me the odds." I love this quote because not only is it representative of God, it kind of represents my own life. I've never been someone that when people tell me the odds of something, that I take it seriously. It's like, yeah, the odds are 1,000 to 1, cool. I'll be the 1 in 1,000 then. And it's not out of arrogance or pride, it's a matter of, look, maybe if you're too scared to do it, I'll do it. I don't care about the odds because it's kind of like the whole David and Goliath thing. If you look at the numbers and you look at the size difference, nothing that happened makes any sense with that fight. However, David took down a giant with a stone. And part of that comes back to the whole faith thing, which is kind of like the Force. And when you're aiming at something, even something so small can take something out that's gigantic. And those are the odds. It seems impossible because our human minds want to rationalize it, but when you're lurking with God, odds are never what they appear to be. In fact, a lot of times the giant's really just an ant, especially in comparison to God. Now, something else I want to say is a quote. This is going to go to someone, I know this is going to fill someone's heart with something. Han Solo and, like I said, Starlord were kind of playboys, but both of them are true romantics too. There was this one line from Han Solo that I think a lot of women really love, and that's Princess Leia says to him when he's going to be put into carbonite, "I love you." And his response back, instead of saying "I love you," was, "I know." Which, for a lot of people, if they don't understand this, sometimes people say "I love you" in a variety of different ways. It's just showing up, being there. Last minute rescues like Han Solo with Luke in the Battle of the Death Star. It's that moment of, hey, I took a laser blaster for you, like what just Leia did for Han. When they go to rescue Han and he's frozen in carbonite and they're up on the thingy and they're joking about like how this is a great rescue. It was him really saying thank you, I love you guys. It's really an interesting thought process because when you think about the number of ways every day that someone shows up, and never discredit that, if there's someone that is coming back into your life consistently and they keep showing up, even despite all your imperfections and all your flaws, it might be God doing something there. Because God has us operating in a way that says I love you that's different, and God operates in the realm of unconditional love. So when you really start learning what unconditional love is with God, and you learn that small things really do say I love you more than just saying it itself, it's a big difference. And it'll make somebody's life entirely different. It can actually save somebody, it can change somebody's life, as I have learned through over the course of these last few years. Small meaningful gestures to me mean way more than, grand elaborate, you can take me to the ball game, so to speak, but that's a nice gift. The one gift that consistently I thought was one of the best was when someone had made me some juices, and the fact that it was something homemade and something that this person took absolute care to make and bring to me and show me was honestly the most love I've ever felt in my life. And it's really funny because I don't get those moments all that often, and it's something I'm used to doing for other people. So to have it done in return was something that kind of blew my mind, and it kind of rewired my brain to seeing other small things and how people show up. in my life. So I highly encourage you, if you really want to know if someone loves you or whatever, stop and ask if they come around, if they're kind, stuff like that. You might find that somebody loves you a lot more than you realize. I know God loves everyone, and that's why he puts these people in your lives. Anyways, I hope this message finds you guys well today. Until next time.